So I'm just adding a little more dark blue down here, just to make it sound a little, make it seem a little richer. And I'm going to go, once it's a little dry, I'm going to go over the yellow and orange again, but I just want to get the patchiness out of the water. So acrylic paint does need a few layers so that it really, makes a nice rich coating of paint. Alright, so just filling in the gaps. And then I'm just going to move this light a little bit over here because I want to actually do the blending again over here at the top. It just ended off just a little too blotchy looking, not quite as clean looking on the edges as I had hoped. So there's not too much more to do, but I just, want to make it look as good as it could be without putting, a huge amount of more time in. It just needs a little bit more, maybe like half an hour more, just of touching up. I'm just checking to see what I'm doing over there. And then just put a little paint down. So I'm not being too neat because I can go over this again with some more light paint a little bit later. Adding a little bit more over there. I'm going to be careful over here that I don't go over the fish too much. And then I will go over this a little bit more later too. Alright, so I'm just going to make this spread over just a little bit more. So with this, it was almost working. It just had too many brush marks to be satisfying. So I really do want the jellyfish to stand out a little bit more. So I'm just going to do that, and then I need my other paint too, but I can put another layer on. So I'm going to just finish off the blue, the dark blue, and then I'll go back and touch that up with the light blue and get that blending to work just a little bit more smoothly. Alright, just have to go over this a few times, but it still needs a little bit more. This is looking better. I'm going to go over these streamers again. So if I put whatever's in front of the background on top of the background colour, it looks much more convincingly like it is where it's supposed to be, which is, like I said, on top. And this I'm going to do again, so I'm just going to go over this a little bit and then bring those streamers back. Just going around the fish again. So the patchwork is mostly, the patchwork look is mostly down here, but in order to make it look like it's connecting and it's one big body of water behind the fish and the jellyfish, I'm just doing this part too. That way the paint marks are similar, so it looks connected. Okay, so it's looking a little smoother. The jellyfish is having more of an impact now that the water is looking nice and smooth. So all it takes is a couple of layers. So a lot of times paintings look like they're going wrong right from the beginning, or within a few strokes, and you think that you might as well give up and start again. But it's just paintings do that. So a lot of times is you haven't done enough of something to make it look like it should. So sometimes the beginning parts of drawing something, they just don't look like the thing at all, so you just have to keep going a little bit, but then also layering the paint. So the first layer of paint was mostly too thin, unless you really put it on very thickly right from the beginning, but generally you just need a few layers to cover up the canvas colour, the white of the canvas, and then it works. So yeah, so this is looking more like it should. I'm going to give this just a little bit more paint down here, just because I can still see blotches of white and dark, so I just want to get that nice and smooth. And then my streamers from the jellyfish are going to look much nicer. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to put a little more paint over here. So it's wet and it didn't need another layer anyway. It's like the third or fourth layer over here. That's how much it actually needs to make it look smooth. Okay, just bringing that up a little bit. The sides, you know, it's up to you whether you want to paint them or not. I'm just going to go over the edge a little bit so that it gets rid of the white over there, so that water looks like it doesn't just end there, it just feels bigger than it is. And then I've got kind of a medium colour, so I'm just going to put this on. It's a little darker, but that's okay because I'm going to actually add some more colour to it. So I'm just going to get this around here a little bit, and then around here. And I want to make sure I get this down before I start blending, because once it's blended, or once you start blending, you pick up that other colour, and then it goes where it shouldn't quite easily. So I'm just going over here to blend this. This is basically what we were doing before, except the paint is thicker, and it looks smoother. So I've just, it's basically I'm mixing the colours together over here to make this lighter blue, and then I'm going down into the dark blue. Just to blend it a little bit. Okay, so that looks much better on that side. Okay, I just want to get a little more of the light paint over here, and then do the same thing over here. So basically the canvas is becoming the palette. It's where you're mixing your paint. So the more I mix, the smoother it becomes, and then I can bring it back this way and blend it in with the other paint a little bit, and then get rid of that a little bit, and then re-blend it over here. So making that a little darker, bringing it over this way to blend out, and then just bringing this down. So as soon as you do that, you change direction, it's going to unblend itself, but then you just do it again. So it's you know, pulling back and forth between the different parts of it. So you've got to get it to feel like it's next to the jellyfish. We're going to do the jellyfish again on the edge just to make it smooth, and then blending it in. Okay, so yeah, the second coat worked much better than the first. So, or at least this is the fourth coat, isn't it? Okay, so that's looking kind of glowy over there, which is nice. So I'm going to take this, which is roughly the same color as this, and I'm just going to blend this up a little bit more so that it feels a little more joined together in this part. So the one side looks a little bit different from the other side, so I'm just trying to get whatever is happening over here, which is over there, to come and join what's happening over here. Okay, and it looks okay. Alright, so I'm going to leave that there, and then I'm just going to go over the edge of the jellyfish a little bit more. So this white part over here. It's just picking up the dark paint over there, so I'm going to give it another layer. And then just do that one more time because it looks a little dark. I want it to actually stand out a little bit. So the little marbly effect that I'm getting over here is quite nice, so I'm not going to change that. What I'm doing over here is I'm taking the edge of the jellyfish a little bit over that dark blue, so I'm widening the jellyfish just a little bit, and that way it looks like it's in front of the ocean. Like I said, if you want something to look like it's in front of something, you want to paint it after you paint, or at least you're going to paint the edges after you've painted that thing. So in this case the thing is the background color, and then the edges of the jellyfish are the thing that is in front of it. So I'm just mixing up the other color blue and just doing the same on this side. So this one looks better than my first line because it's a little brighter, so it's really popping out a little bit more. It's a little warmer blue. It's got slightly purpley tones in it. So it just changes its colour on this side a little bit, which works well with the dark blue behind it because I mixed it with the dark blue. So it's got a hint of that, which feels like it's within the same space as that, which helps to give it that 3D feel. And then just bringing this around a little bit more over there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the streamers down here again. So I just want to make sure it's not too light because it was nice when it was dark. It's got this like deep glowy look, so I'm going to put that glowy blue, which is basically the aqua blue and the dark blue mixed together. And the aqua blue makes it look light, and there's a little bit of white too, and then the dark blue makes it look rich. So together they have this nice streamer effect. Okay, so I don't want the streamers to be going all in the same direction, although they seem to be doing that a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to go over there. I'm using that dry brush effect. So as the paint dries on my brush, it's called scumbling. It actually picks up the texture of the canvas and then it looks see-through and soft. It actually, when you're painting soft things, if you use a scumble effect, it works really well. So it really works quite nicely over here. Alright, so I'm going to add a little lighter stuff over here. I'm going to add there's some light marks on the streamers over here, so I'm going to put those in. And then some light marks over here. Okay, so that other side I have to just check because I can't quite see it from the angle I'm painting, so make sure it's not going wrong. I'm just enhancing these, but I want to make sure that I enhance them on the other side of the fish too, because otherwise they look like they're attached to the fish and not going behind the fish. Alright, I just want to add a little more dark blue, well, somewhat darker blue to this part, because they disappear into the darkness, so I just want to, they disappear in a kind of a glowy form into the darkness, so I just want to get that dark blue over there, a little bit over here. I'm just going to put some here, although that's probably needing to be lighter. Alright, so I'm just going to do that again with, oh, it actually comes from up here, so I'm just going to pour that out. Bring it down. Bring it over. And I'm going to add a little white to it. Just over there. Okay. Right, I'm just checking that. Okay, so we need a little orange on the other one. So I'm just going to clean my brush because it's got blue on it, and then we're going to add a little orange to this one. And then I'm just going to look at these over here. They seem to be coming out more from this. And there's a few more that I put in. So I'm going to add a little bit more over here. Touch over here. You can add a lot more than is in the picture. You don't have to just stick with what's there. But I'm going to just do a few because I'm almost finished with this. I just need to make it look a little more complete. Okay. Alright, and then the last thing that I want to do, well, almost the last thing, I just want to add a little white to this part over here, just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then just to make it feel like it connects, I'm going to put a little white here, a little white there, and a little white over there. Okay, and then, seeing as we're on the white stuff, this could also have a little white in it, just because it's catching the light over there. It's not just yellow. There are definitely little bits of white over there. And there are also little bits of white in the yellow itself. So I'm just going to add a few marks of white just over here. So this is the white that I'm adding afterwards. It's the white paint, so it's going to look richer than just general white canvas. And I'm just going to add a little yellow to it anyway. I don't want it too white. I still want it to look yellow, and then I'm going to add a little bit above here, but I think I might just add a little bit more yellow just generally, so it's not quite white, but it just needs a little something over here, and then that, and then it kind of fades in a little bit, so I'm using that dry brush so that it fades in. And then I'm going to use a little dry brush over here just to fade that in. And then on this side, there's a little, like a mist of yellow just over there, which looks okay. And then actually, there's probably a teeny tiny little bit of yellow up here. So I'm just going to, it's almost like I'm using pastels, that my brush is relatively dry, so I'm just kind of rubbing it on like I would use charcoal, and my finger helps a little bit over there. Okay, alright, and then I'm just going to finish, or not finish, but repaint the fish. Just because they look a little strappy. This one could do with being a little bit fatter. This is the light orange, but I'm going to add the darker oranges on after this. I'm just going to make that look like it's over the water a little bit. That one's fine. I'm actually going to darken the other one up right now. So let me get a little red and then mix that with the orange. A little bit more orange over here, and then a little bit down there. In fact, I think that needs to be a little darker, so I'm just going to put a little bit more on, and then just enhance the tail. Okay, and then maybe just a tiny little bit of darkness on the bottom, just to make it feel even more round. So I've mixed a little, it's more like grey than black. It's probably, I'm not sure, it's like a Payne's grey, just a warm grey that I mixed with red, so it becomes brown looking. But it has the same colour as the fish itself, so it's a little bit more consistent with what the fish colour is, rather than just putting straight brown on. So if you can mix the colours you have and make them into other colours, for me that tends to work quite nicely. Okay, so I'm just going to give this fish a little more yellow over here. That didn't need a huge amount. But into the yellow I'll put a little bit of white. And then it just pops out just a little bit more. A little bit over there. Okay, and then I might as well just enhance this red at the bottom. So just getting another layer of red on top. But I'm doing blending as I go into the dark edges. So that means I'm using a lighter brush mark so that it's doesn't have a strong edge, it just fades into the darkness over there. And then seeing as that red is looking pretty good, I'm going to add a little more over here and then over there. And here I do want to get rid of those charcoal lines just because they detract from the colour. A little over there. Over there. And then I'm going to fade it a little bit into the yellow just to blend it a little more. And that will blend it on this side a little bit. So it's good to blend. We blended it with the yellow, and now we're blending it with the red. So, all right, almost done. I'm just going to finish the red, and then that will be it. So the bright red is making it look a lot brighter up here, which is nice, and that stands out against the blue really well. And just a little bit more over here. Okay, and then I think, oh, this is the edge, so that actually has an edge over there. Now I just want to blend this in a little bit more over there. Okay, and then final thing, I think I'm just going to touch up these over here so that they look like they're in front, and then the orange ones, and then I think we're going to be done. Alright, okay, so that looks much more like it should. I will take a picture of that and send it to you. Thanks.